1966, the Chicago Bears drafted the son of a Pennsylvania coal miner in the 4th round. Doug Buffone would go on to play 15 seasons for the Bears and later be named one of the 100 greatest Bears of all time. His allegiance to the Bears never waned, even when he took to the microphone and witnessed some horrendous Bears teams.
The fact is, there's not the fear put into them, because this game is a lot about fear. You either do the job, or you go home and go sell hamburgers at McDonald's.
Doug told it like it is, and that's part of the reason his nephew John has dedicated this show to Doug. And now John Buffone is spreading Buffone-branded beratements just like his uncle.
Win the football game. You're the head coach. I don't care what you have your fingers in. I don't care what you're meddling in. You're the head freaking coach. We get it. You're the most important guy on the staff. You don't have to keep trying to legitimize that.
And he's got pep talks too.
I love this team. And I know everyone watching and listening loves this team. So while we may be pessimistic and cynical, every one of us still has hope that the stars will align at some point. And if that ever does happen, you'll be glad you stuck around.
John is telling it like it is here on Buffone 55. And joining John are Alyssa Barbieri, managing editor of USA Today's NFL Wires, including Bears Wire, and also Danny Shimon, lead game and draft analyst for the Barroom Network. Buckle up and bear down. This is Buffone 55, the John Buffone Show.
Hello and welcome to this special Monday edition of Buffone 55, a fast-paced approach at breaking down those lovable Chicago Bears. I'm John Buffone, and with me as always is my co-host and producer, Alyssa Barbieri. Alyssa, another week. Another Bears loss. They gave us a little hope and then gave it away in the fourth quarter. How you doing?
I'm starting to get used to this, which is not good. But hey, for some reason though, like this one didn't hurt as much as some of the others because I mean that just tells you how bad this season has been. And you want to know what? I was looking so forward to this Thursday night game coming up. No, I'm joking, obviously. But yeah, it's a rough one too because, you know, they had us there. I thought they're going to pull it off again. They were within one score. It felt like last year a little bit where they were competing with these teams and then they somehow found a way to lose. And it's nothing new for us. We're ready for another therapy session here.
Yeah, you just kind of get callous to it after a while. And because we're on Monday and we are very rarely on the day before Aldo and Dan's show, I'm wearing Dan Aguirre's favorite jersey tonight. It's the Rick Meyer, number 13, Rick Meyer jersey. That's not Johnny Knox. That's Rick Meyer, who played half a season for the Bears, and I can't even believe they made jerseys for him, but I picked one up back in, he played in 1997. I don't think I bought this until 1998. There's a whole Value City story behind this, but I'm not going to get into that. However, do they even have Value Cities in the Midwest? I don't know. But anyway, I digress. But Alyssa, before we go in and break down another fun, rough week, can you let everyone know how Buffone 55 works?
Absolutely. So we will begin with the classic B55 segment. That's when I ask John 5 questions about the Bears, and his responses must be completed within 55 seconds. The 55 is John's way of paying tribute to the great Doug Buffone, his uncle, his mentor, and a man who played 15 seasons with the Bears and wore number 55. Then we're going to mix things up a little bit this week, and we're going to jump into the first half of the free-for-all that we call Buffone's Basement, where Danny Shimon is going to join John and me, and the three of us are going to break down this last loss and look ahead to one of those dreaded primetime games. Then we're going to break down the Bears' upcoming opponent, and this week we're going to take a deep dive on the Carolina Panthers, a team that has several ties to the Bears. We're going to wrap things up with another Buffone's Basement segment, looking ahead to Thursday night. So, John, coming off of another loss, do you think you can keep this energy up?
Yeah, I'll fake it till I make it. Let's go.
Okay, then. So we're going to jump right into our B55 segment. That's when I'm going to ask John 5 questions, and he's going to find a way to keep his responses within 55 seconds, which is a miracle considering this Bears team this season. So let's go ahead and get it started. So, John, like you said earlier, the Bears gave us a little hope yesterday. They hung with the Saints all game and had multiple opportunities to either tie or take the lead. So I'll ask you a broad question. How do you evaluate this loss? You know the drill. 55 seconds and go.
Well, it kind of falls into what I've been saying all year. When you're a sub-average team, and I think I'm being generous there, you have very little margin for error. You can't have your quarterback account for 4 turnovers. You can't have your best receiver fumble the ball. You can't commit untimely penalties. You can't miss a 40-yard field goal. And they did all of those things against the Saints. Plus, they had trouble getting off the field on 3rd down, although the defense did tighten up towards the end of the game. They dangled that little bit of hope. They looked efficient on offense early, and they did have chances to win this game, but bad teams always find a way to lose games. But honestly, I didn't have the energy to yell and scream after the game. I'm kind of in recharging mode right now. When your team is a consistent loser like mine is, you go through phases of outward rage and then just calm acceptance while you recharge that rage. So in a game or two, I'll probably be ready to yell and scream again.
Yeah, like you, I was a little surprised by my reaction. I wasn't too angry about it. I'm just like, well, at least they kept things interesting and were competitive up until the end, and they had a chance to win. But like you said, when you're a bad team, you're going to find a way to lose, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, Tyson Bagent had a really good first half, and then he just kind of realized quickly just how bad things can get as being the Bears starting quarterback. So, I mean, it was a rough one. But again, at least it wasn't over and I wasn't writing my game like at the start of my game recap at the start of the 3rd quarter. It was refreshing.
Yeah, they kept your interest. It wasn't a complete blowout, or it wasn't one of those boring, just those Bears games that drag on, where even if they're within 8 or 9 points, you're like, this game's over. I mean, it felt like they had a chance at the end, and they just the 4th quarter was nightmarish. But what else is new?
Yeah, I think maybe the reason I felt like that is because going into the season, this was a game I didn't expect them to win. So the fact that they were in it until the end, I'm like, well, hey, that's a win in itself. So, yeah. I mean, we'll take it.
Will we? I guess we have to. What other
we have
choice
to. We have to.
We have no other choice.
Okay, so John, after the game, Matt Eberflus didn't commit one way or another to Justin Fields' availability for Thursday night's game. Given Tyson Bagent's struggles against the Saints, should the Bears put Fields in even if he isn't 100%? 55 seconds are on the clock.
So it's probably in everyone's best interest to sit him on Thursday if he isn't almost 100%. No one in the NFL is 100% in week 10, but if he still has restrictions or his ability to play the position is hampered by that thumb, why put him out there? You aren't winning the division. You aren't going to the playoffs. You aren't a contender. So don't put your quarterback in a position where it could get worse. And if you're Justin Fields, I'm sure you're aware that you are auditioning for your next team as much as you are auditioning to remain the guy in Chicago. So as much as you want to go out and play and put some good tape out there, if you're gutting it out with a bad thumb and you throw a few picks and God forbid lose to the Panthers, I don't know if people are going to be thinking about that thumb when they evaluate you. So if he feels great and there's no problems with the thumb, yeah, go for it. But if it's still affecting how he's gripping the football or throwing the football, take another week and come back on November 19th against the Lions. Like I said, they don't desperately need him for a playoff run.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, maybe after seeing Tyson Bagent's performance against the Saints, it's kind of like, hurry up, Justin, we want you back. But at the same time, it might be in the team and his best interest to just take these next 10 days and to really get that thumb healthy and ready to go. Because like you said, they're not competing for anything. I guess maybe you could argue that that beating the Panthers is important so you can make that first round pick even worse. And this is an opportunity to do that. But I mean, outside of that, I don't really see, a reason why you should risk him. If he's good to go, oh my God, by all means, obviously
right.
We want to see him out there. But if he's not, I don't see why you risk it.
No, I understand if you're in a tight division race and you need to gain ground on the Lions, then you're like, okay, we need this game. And if you were a good team, you'd probably still start your backup because your backup should be able to beat the Carolina Panthers. So, but that none of those things are happening. So let him sit if he's not close to 100.
Yeah, no, you're 2-7. You don't need to do that. Just
No.
ride with Bagent. Give him one last start before Fields comes back.
Agreed.
Okay, so we're gonna stick with the head coach, our favorite topic. Matt Eberflus is currently 5-21, yes, as the Bears head coach. John, last week you said that you weren't sure if Eberflus's fate was sealed either way. Did this game do anything to move the needle? You've got 55 seconds.
So I want to be clear. I'm not sure Ryan Poles has made his mind up. I have made my mind up. But to answer the question, no, I don't think this moved the needle one way or another. I'm sure Poles likes Eberflus, but this season has the potential to be the exact same as last year. I don't care how close they are, how close they say they are. They aren't winning, and eventually you just lose a locker room when you just keep losing. Also, I don't necessarily think the Montez Sweat deal was an indication that Eberflus is definitely coming back. I think Poles wanted a defensive end, didn't see any that would be worth taking high in the draft, and he pulled the trigger. It's not like Montez Sweat can only play in Matt Eberflus's defense. It's not like it's going to be when they try to turn Jared Allen into a 3-4 linebacker. We are a little more than halfway through the season. It can get better, or it can get a lot worse. And if the Bears end up as a 3 or 4 win team, I can't wait to hear the justification at the end of the year for why everyone is going to be retained and they're going to run this back.
Yeah, like you said, I don't know, just it feels like Ryan Poles is just really committed to Eberflus right now. Obviously, things could change, especially down the final stretch here if those losses continue to mount or if he gets, pressure from above. So, I mean, we'll see, but like you said, it's just a rough situation, though, with Eberflus. It's week after week. We're seeing the same thing for the last 2 years. It's hard to expect that anything will change next season, especially if, he's going to be bringing back Luke Getsy. And we'll see. Obviously, he'd have to address the defensive coordinator or bring in a new defensive coordinator. I don't know. I don't trust it. But again, it's not our decision. We can't make that. I'm just hoping that Ryan Poles does make the right decision. I don't know. We'll see. We're only halfway through the season. It can get so much more worse.
and that's really what I'm saying. Like, I know that Poles has given the indication that he just really loves Matt Eberflus's character as a leader in the locker room and all this other stuff. But listen, the pressure is going to be too much if this team ends up only winning 3 games. Or 3 or 4 games, and you're going to think, well, this was supposed to be step 2 in the rebuild. You tore it all down, and then we were supposed to see progress this year after you spend all that money in free agency. You got a second. Now you got a second-year head coach. You got a second-year play caller now. All those growing pains are supposed to be behind you in year 1, and you turned out the same result you did last year. I don't know how you justify it. How do you, at the end of the year, whether it's in a press conference or you're talking to Kevin Warren and George McCaskey, what do you say? Oh, we got better. Oh, we're almost there. We're there. It may not look like we're there, but we're there. Like same stuff that they're saying in the press conference now, most likely.
Matt Nagy, is that you? No, but if this was last season, right? If this is his first season and this is all happening, you can use that as an excuse, right? And that's why last year we didn't really freak out too much. We understood the situation and everything. But now when, Ryan Poles went out and bettered the roster and you built around Justin Fields and you added it, and this is the same result, if not worse, that's a problem. And what faith is there that Eberflus is going to be the guy to turn it around?
No, and I'm starting to see a trend. We saw this with Matt Nagy, and I think we're seeing it with Matt Eberflus. When you're out of answers at the podium when people are asking you about things, you just spin in circles. You're like, again, that's the process of the decision makers. Whenever we're making that decision, we have a big collection of decision makers to make that decision, and that's our process. And again, that's just what we do to put ourselves in a position to be most successful when we're making a decision. And you're like, what did you say? And like, no, that's my answer. Thank you. But when you're out of answers, that's what you say. Whenever the real answer is, we're not doing well and I'm not doing my job very well, but you can't say that. That's what you get.
Or you stand up there, and I forget if it was you or Danny who did it, where he just rubbing his arm or his elbow.
Yeah, he said he had a tell, like a poker tell. That
was Danny, right?
Yeah, Danny picked up on that body language real good. I had no clue about that.
I'm watching now. I see it.
Must be a heck of a poker player because I did not pick up on that at all, but why not?
Oh, he's so nervous up there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to pivot to another topic that we love discussing. That's offensive coordinator Luke Getsy, who has drawn just as much, if not more, criticism than Matt Eberflus. So, John, are you more confident that at least Getsy will be shown the door at the end of the season? 55 seconds and go.
So here's why I think Getsy and Eberflus are kind of joined at the hip here. And I know this is going to sound a little convoluted, so stick with me. If you decide that Getsy needs to go and you bring in a new offensive coordinator, you might have a new quarterback. And if under that new offensive coordinator, the Bears still stink in 2024, they'll probably move on from Eberflus. And leaving with Eberflus will be that new offensive coordinator you just hired. So in true Bears fashion, they'll do everything out of order. They won't bring in a quarterback with the head coach at the same time. And whoever you draft in 2024 would be inherited by whatever coach you hire in 2025. On the other hand, if you decide to keep Justin Fields and fire Getsy, you're putting Fields in his third offensive system in 4 years, and you're hoping his first season and yet another system is going to be enough to save the head coach's job. I feel like I'm in a chalkboard right now and just drawing a ton of circles and trying to connect them, and I hope some of that made sense. I think both should be out.
So you're saying cleaning house is the best option, which I think we could probably agree here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Start all over.
Yeah, I mean, and again, it's the same thing with Matt Eberflus. When we look at Luke Getsy, again, second season calling plays as offensive coordinator, and it's more of the same. And if Fields is here next season and it's the same thing, we've already seen them at a disconnect. You know, they really don't gel, and Fields isn't the kind of quarterback that, you know, Getsy wants to run his offense. So I don't know. It, like you said, it's always like the Bears are just like you fire someone, bring someone in, then the quarterback has to learn a couple new offenses. It's tiring. I like just cleaning house, I think, is the best option. Do I think it's going to happen? No.
And listen, I'm not somebody that says, okay, if it doesn't work in 2 years, you got to clean house, because you don't want to be a franchise that's just cleaning house every 2 years and just consistently rebuilding. But whenever you don't want to double down on a bad move. And if you just say, we want stability, and you're just going to go like that. And they're like, okay, then you want consistently bad. And so it's pretty obvious what we're seeing is not working. Like listen, I'm not saying to be successful this year, the Bears needed to be 7-2 right now. But if they were right around 500, maybe a game under 500, a game over 500, whatever, then you can probably point to some real steps of progress that they have made since last year. I'm still waiting to see progress from last year. What is tangibly better than last year? I still don't know. There might be something glaring that I'm missing. Don't listen, like I always say, I'm wrong about everything. But if I'm looking for something that is glaringly better or is noticeably better, go ahead, Alyssa. What do we got?
DJ Moore.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, yeah, you're right. Yep, you're absolutely right. They have DJ Moore, who basically surpassed the receiving totals of everyone last year in like week 5. But yes, the guy they brought in is doing better. But other than that, I don't know.
Yeah, it's because Luke Getsy was brought in to develop Justin Fields and to fix this offense, and it's not the case. It's gotten worse from last season, and there's more talent around him, whether it's DJ Moore or whether it's on the offensive line. And it's frustrating because we've seen those flashes, right, where when Getsy is in sync with Fields, right, when he's actually calling a game plan that really fits his quarterback. And we saw that, right, with Fields when he had those really good games against Denver and Washington. And then, like, the wheels just fall off again. And then we're, like, back to the beginning. And it's the same old thing. And Getsy is just so inconsistent. And it's so frustrating because he was supposed to be the guy to develop Fields. And it's frustrating because I feel like they are ruining Fields, that they are wasting, like, the best quarterback prospect that they've had in a long time. And it's unfortunate, but it really does seem like we are headed towards a reset.
Yeah, and
again.
It's just one of those things where it's just like, okay, we found what works, but then he almost can't help himself, where it's just like, okay, let's go back to what I want to do now. Okay, that worked, but I want to do it my way, so let's go back to this. And so it's just consistently inconsistent. It's like some of these coaches would rather go down doing it their way than doing it a different way that's effective, because they want to be the reason why it's working. They want to be the reason. And a lot of them are, and I'm not saying this is, the case with Luke Getsy, but there's a lot of ego in there that says, if I want to be a head coach, I need to be able to put my stamp on here. And if they're doing this in spite of my, my system, then what am I hanging my hat on whenever I want to go be a head coach or be this offensive mastermind? I'm not saying that's necessarily the case here, but we have seen that all of a sudden they just go away for things for no reason, or they go back to things for no reason. And I'm not in the coach's room. I'm not going to pretend like I am, but when you're watching it, you're like, okay, what happened? Why are we the way that we are? that's how I look at it.
Matt Nagy, is that you? My God, the Bears do have a type, don't they?
Yeah, they have a type. That's good. I like that. Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not a good type. Very toxic relationships over and over again. Okay, so John, we're going to finish on this. So, okay, I know that you're excited about this, John. Get ready. The Bears are on Primetime again.
Hooray.
In a matchup that features arguably the two worst teams in the NFL, what is your hype level for this marquee matchup of motley misfits? So no clock for this one. Tell us what you really think.
Oh, so here's okay. Well, here my first thought was, wow, Amazon must be thrilled that this is the game that they got, the stoppable force versus the movable object. But if you're not a Bears fan or a Panthers fan, why in the world would you spend your Thursday night watching this game unless you're like a degenerate gambler, which is completely fine, by the way. However, this could be the last Bears game of the year where there is something to play for. The Bears have the Panthers first round pick, and if they want to keep that pick as high as possible, you would like to give them another. Traded the number 1 pick to the Panthers last year, and they took Bryce Young, and you don't want him to make the Bears look bad. Of course, if you want to play devil's advocate, you could say the Bears only have 2 wins, and it's about as broad as it is long looking at the Bears and Panthers draft positioning. But for me, I'm grasping at anything. There really hasn't been anything on the line during a Bears game in a very long time. So even if I have to manifest something in my own mind, I'm going to do it. So am I pumped for this game? You bet I am. Big game on Thursday night. Let's go, baby. But that'll do it for B55. After this message, we'll go to the basement, and Alyssa and I will start a group discussion with Danny Shimon, the Barroom's lead analyst. And during that, we'll look at Aldo Gandia's preview of the Bears' next opponent, those Carolina Panthers.
The fall is where we rock here at the Barroom Network with over 15 shows scheduled from September to January. Make sure you subscribe to the Barroom Network's YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts.
Love that. Welcome back to Buffone 55, a segment we call Buffone's Basement. That's when we welcome on the Barroom's lead analyst, Danny Shimon. Danny, how you doing?
Well, it's a Monday, but it feels like a Wednesday for some reason. I'm not sure why.
That's weird. So, first out of the gate, I got a question for you. Rick Meyer, great Bears quarterback or the greatest Bears quarterback?
Rick Meyer?
Yeah.
The Notre Dame guy?
That's whose jersey I'm repping right now. Rick Meyer played for.
I was hoping that was a Johnny Knox jersey, John.
Oh, that is straight up Rick Meyer right there. And it's really a collector's edition, to be honest with you.
I mean, if we're rocking great Bears quarterbacks of the past jersey, I should pull out my Kate McNown jersey.
There you are. So the whole thing behind this is, I guess they had Value Cities in the Midwest. Was that a store in the Midwest? So you go there and they always had like this rack of jerseys in like the athletic section, but they were always like outdated jerseys, like guys who didn't play for that team anymore. So I'd go in there and like, we didn't have a lot of money. So I'd go in there and I picked up I think I had like a Rasheed Wallace Washington Bullets jersey, like years after he played there. I had a Rodman San Antonio jersey. And then I'm going through it one day and I'm looking, and by the way, I'm like maybe 9 or 10 years old while this is going on, by the way. So this is back in like 98, 99. And I see this. I'm like, oh my God, a Bears jersey. No way. And I look at it. I'm like, oh, it's Rick Meyer. And it's an adult XL. And I'm 9 years old at the time. Like, oh, but it's $9. so I go to my mom, like, can I get this? And, props to Mama Bear Buffone. She's like, fine, you can have it. We'll go that. And then I'm like, oh, I'll grow into it. And eventually I grew into it. And that's why we have this conversation piece. The return on investment on this Rick Meyer jersey has been tenfold because now I have something to talk about. And he only played for the Bears for like a season. So I can't even believe they even put his jersey in production. But I got one, baby. Value City, 1998, $9. That's what I'm talking about.
That was the Wani years, I believe, right, Rick Meyer, if I remember correctly?
He got traded for a first round pick in like
11 overall pick. I remember that.
Yeah, and so he was drafted in 93, got traded to the Bears in like 97.
I believe that's Wani. Yeah, I believe that's Wani.
Was Wani still around?
Yeah,
so one of the better trades in Bears history. You trade a first round pick for a guy that was there for a cup of coffee and then left. But anyway, that was our Rick Meyer segment. Get every week we'll have a Rick Meyer segment, another Rick Meyer fact, fun fact. That's why people are here.
We should have a segment of bad Bears quarterbacks from the past. I mean, we'll have like ton of material to do.
We could do the obscure Bear of the week. We can go all the way back to
we can go Moses Moreno, P.T. Willis.
Oh yeah.
I got plenty of failed quarterback jerseys in my closet, so
we can go way beyond quarterbacks. We can just do the obscure Bears that were here for like a couple. Like Santonio Holmes was here. People forget about that. Santonio Holmes was here for like a year, right. And some of these other guys.
Don't forget the Brian Cox years.
Yeah, didn't he have a cowboy collar?
Yeah, the little thing, stuck up behind him.
Yeah, I love that thing, man.
Guys, this show is depressing enough.
Oh yeah, the current Bears. So anyway, all right, Danny, we brought you in for a reason. So let's start with the Bears defense. The offense didn't help them much, given that they turned the ball over to the Saints 5 times. But on the first turnover, the Saints scored a touchdown, and on the next 3 turnovers, the Saints only scored a field goal. The last one was at the end of the game. The Saints only had to kill the clock. So given the offense committed 5 turnovers, isn't it kind of a minor miracle that the defense only allowed 24 points?
Well, I mean, that's the one thing is that the defense did play well, I thought, even though they gave up those 24 points. 10 of those points were based off of those turnovers, those 5 turnovers from the Bears offense. But in terms of the guy that really, let me stop right there. Let me go back. They're missing 2 starters with Tremaine Edmonds and Jaquan Brisker, starting, middle linebacker and starting safety. So considering all of that, and then the guys that filled in, Jack Sanborn, to me, guys, was all over the football field. And why this guy was kind of kicked off the starting lineup, after their big acquisitions in the offseason, it's beyond me. But again, that goes back to this coaching staff that I'm not a big fan of, right? So, but Sanborn was all over the place. He started for Edmonds in the middle. And talk about a guy that doesn't have the athletic traits that Tremaine Edmonds does, but talk about the instincts, the guy that can key and read his keys real quick and be able to kind of be there and know where to go prior to that. I mean, Jack Sanborn, guys, is just a flat-out football player. I saw him making tackles on defense, and I saw him going back on special teams, making, assist on tackles there as well. So Jack Sanborn, to me, really stuck out. But the name of this defense is creating pressure with your front 4 and creating turnovers. And the Bears had 0 sacks and 0 turnovers. So to me, again, it's a failure there. The only way they can generate pressure is by blitzing. And when you blitz, even if that's even a 50-50 proposition in terms of they're going to get there, they're going to do anything. Now, Montez Sweat, the new guy, came in. To me, I saw 2 pressures that Sweat caused. One was, I believe, was an incompletion by Derek Carr. He bullied and that's how Sweat wins. He bullies the offensive lineman back into the quarterback, makes him uncomfortable, makes him move his launch pad. And then that caused an incompletion by Derek Carr. The other one, I believe, was a completion, but it was short of a first down. So I think Sweat, for a first game coming in on a short week, I think made a small impact there. So I think he can just go ahead and get better. The one thing about Montez Sweat I have to complain about, guys, 98. That number, it just doesn't fit him. Why can't Dominique Robinson give up number 90 to him? I have no idea why. That guy's barely hanging on to the roster there. Just, try and get that number 90. 98 just doesn't work for Montez Sweat. Sorry.
You use the money.
Maybe. So the one thing I did notice when Montez Sweat was the way that he tracked down Taysom Hill on a play from across the field, the way his closing speed. I looked at him like that. Yeah. Okay. The effort's already there. Like he's already busting his butt to make a play on the opposite side of the field. So that was nice to see.
He loves seeing that effort. Now that's the thing about Sweat. He's a good player. He's a guy who will hustle, will play hard. He's a physical specimen. I mean, you saw his arm, almost 36-inch arms. He's got a chiseled body. This is a guy who's going to be tough at the line of scrimmage. Again, just getting his bearings in his defense. Probably doesn't know all of his teammates' names by now. So I think once he gets more comfortable, I think we'll see more and more impact from him. But again, just for a guy just came in midweek, basically, I think at least from my book, I had like about two possibly 2.5 pressures there. I think he's only credited with 1 officially in the stat book, but I saw 2 where he was promptly the guy that was leading the charge. And then you talked about that play there, John. But Taysom Hill is a pretty quick cat there out of the backfield. He chased him down from the opposite side of the line of scrimmage. So yeah, that's a terrific effort there for Sweat for sure.
Alyssa, you wrote in your studs and duds column on BearsWire.com that the team's pass rush was a dud. Tell us why they ranked so poorly, and then please lead the transition into a little more Montez Sweat talk.
Yeah, I mean, Danny covered it, right? I mean, it's no secret just how awful this pass rush has been. They've gone back-to-back games now without registering a sack. But they also haven't registered a sack in 4 of the 9 games that they've played this season. It's brutal. That game against Washington, they had 5. Think if they didn't have that game, if they weren't playing Sam Howell, just how bad things could be. 10 sacks in 9 games. I mean, you look at the next closest team, the Giants, the disastrous Giants, they have 15. The lack of pressure obviously isn't making things easier on that pass defense either, which leads us to Montez Sweat. Like Danny, I think that he had a really solid but modest debut. He had 2 tackles, a pass breakup, and he forced a Derek Carr incompletion on that 3rd down. While he didn't record a sack in his first game, he did do a good job of had a good pressure rate. According to Next Gen Stats, he had a team high 4 pressures on 25 pass rushes, a 16% pressure rate, and a 2.73 second average time to pressure. So, let's remember Montez Sweat just got here a few days ago, and he was still the best defensive lineman on the field for the Bears. It's just, it's crazy. But I think we also saw his potential and the impact that he can have once he starts acclimating better to this defense.
Alyssa, let's stick with that, the studs and duds column, because I want to turn my attention to the offense. Who did you have on your list whenever you put that column up?
Yeah, well, let's start with the positive because, as you guys know, we don't really do a lot of that on the show this season, unfortunately. But I want to say welcome back to Chicago, Darnell Mooney. It's good to have you back. He led the Bears with 85 yards on 5 catches. And you're reminded that he can be a playmaker on offense. And I think the same goes with Cole Kmet, who had 6 catches for 55 yards and a couple of touchdowns. But I want to single out Deontay Foreman especially, who just continues to show why he's deserving as the team's workhorse, running back, especially considering Khalil Herbert is now eligible to return from IR. So we'll see if the Bears, put him out there or activate him before Thursday night's game. But I think it's going to be interesting to see how they handle the workload, because I think we can agree Foreman should not be a healthy scratch for the rest of the season. I still can't believe that from weeks 2 through week 5 that he was inactive. It's crazy. And on defense, kind of like Danny was saying, I mean, I was impressed with Jack Sanborn as well. He made my studs list. He reminded us that the Bears very well could have only signed one of those free agent linebackers and saved a heck of a lot of money and addressed another position, but I digress. But then looking obviously to the bad, poor Tyson Bagent. I mean, again, I think he's going to be a really solid backup quarterback for the Bears, but you just can't turn the ball over like that. 4 turnovers, 3 in the last quarter when you're still in this game where it's still winnable. I mean, it's brutal for him, especially when the game was within reach. And obviously, I don't ever want to put DJ Moore on my duds list ever again, but it's not all his fault, although he did have that costly fumble, that 5th turnover. But a week after, Moore said he wanted to be targeted more after he was targeted just 6 times against the Chargers. He was targeted less, only 5 times against the Saints. So it's safe to say Moore doesn't have that same chemistry with with Tyson Bagent as he does with Justin Fields. So I think that once Fields returns, perhaps on Thursday night against the Panthers, I think that'll definitely change. And then also, I want to call out Cairo Santos for forcing me to relive the trauma of the double doink. Okay. My God, like that was the loudest doink I've ever heard. And somehow I was back in January 2019, just rocking back and forth. It's like we've heard a lot of other teams doink field goals before.
There was one in that game.
Yeah, and it's triggering, but then when a Bears kicker does it, get out of here. I mean, that was brutal. So thanks, Cairo. I appreciate that.
We have not talked Bears kickers in a long time. I remember back in, I think in 2019, Alyssa, I remember us going into the season thinking all they got to do is get the kicker right and they're going to the Super Bowl. And
I miss those times desperately.
Yeah, because we always sound so great in the preseason talking about like what the team needs and they're bound for the playoffs, and then 3 weeks into it the wheels fall off of it. But I was smiling while you were talking about DJ Moore, because I got to pivot over to you, Danny. Listen, yesterday on Bear Football, you brought up a question again that maybe DJ Moore is not an elite wide receiver as some proclaim. Now, not that I disagree with you, but I'm not overly sure I agree with you either. Yeah, he did have a costly fumble in the game, and we can't discount that the quarterbacking Moore has had his entire career really has been questionable with the Bears and the Panthers. So tell me, are you certain DJ Moore is or is not an elite wide receiver, or are you questioning any elite designation that might be put on him?
My question, when the trade was made and everyone said, "Oh, the Bears got an elite number one receiver," I said, "Wait, hold on." I know he had stats in Carolina. He put up over, I think, 3 consecutive over 1,000-yard seasons, but he only had 4 touchdowns each of those seasons, right? And we play a bunch of quarterbacks. I understand that, not the greatest quarterbacks, okay. But the thing is, when I say elite, I mean, I think as a fan base, as a media, we just throw the word out like it's just willy-nilly. Like, elite to me means like the best of the best, right? And to me, DJ Moore is a good receiver, and he's the number one receiver on this Bears team, no doubt about it. He's probably he's the best receiver on this team. But in terms of elite, so I just don't put him in that category. And when a trade was made, and so far this season, he's not elite to me. He's not a guy that defenses are fearful of, that defenses have to hone in on. So, for example, like when I make my list of elite receivers, I got Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs, A.J. Brown, Cooper Kupp. Those 7 are my elite guys, right? And then there's a next tier below them. So of those 7 guys, John and Alyssa, which one of those guys would you say DJ Moore is better than? I'll throw it out to you guys.
Yeah, you'd be hard pressed to get me to put him in there.
Right. So my next tier,
you can always have some context of who is throwing him the ball, but your point is very well taken.
But my next tier, and this is where I put DJ Moore, is my next tier of very good receivers, guys like, CeeDee Lamb, still young, still developing, could eventually be elite, but right now I say very good receiver. Mike Evans, a little older, but still a very good receiver. Amon St. Brown, the guy from the Lions, developing young guy, very good receiver. Deebo Samuel, he's more of like a running back playing receiver, but he's very talented. Get the ball in his hands. He's dangerous. He can score. And then DJ Moore. So these are guys that I have not as elite, but as very good receivers. That's all I'm saying about DJ Moore. When you're an elite receiver, and we guys, I know Chicago, we haven't had a plethora of elite receivers, but we have had one in my timeline, in my time frame, I should say, as a fan and as an analyst, and that's Brandon Marshall. Brandon Marshall, say what you want to say about him off the field, in the locker room. That man, they knew the ball was coming to him, and they couldn't stop him. Now, DJ Moore has had 3 good games that I can see in terms of stat-wise, right? It was against the Bucks. He had 104 yards receiving and then the back-to-back versus Denver and Washington. Since the Washington game, he hasn't scored a touchdown. Since the Washington game, he hasn't had more than 60 yards receiving in a game. If that's an elite receiver, I'm sorry, I can't follow that. And now you might say, oh, well, the quarterback throwing him the ball and all this stuff. Well, you know what? He had over 1,000 yards. I was told he's an elite receiver coming out of Carolina. He didn't have that many better quarterbacks in Carolina. So my thing is, when the focus became on DJ Moore after the Washington game, he went away. And that's the thing is, like, and I'm not saying he's got to go out there and have 10 receptions, 208 yards, 3 touchdowns every single game to prove he's elite. No, he can have the 3 for 44 he had this past game, but catch a touchdown or make an impact. When you're driving that potential, that last drive to tie the game. I know Bajan fumbled it, but DJ Moore should be a guy that they go to. And when the change was made, when Justin got hurt and Bajan was put in, I was told by a lot of people, not you guys, but a lot of people said on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, oh, this offense is better for Tyson Bajan. Bajan gets everyone involved. Well, if Bajan gets everyone involved, why isn't DJ Moore more involved? So that tells me that he's a guy that can't beat the extra attention. So to me, he's not elite. very good. I'm not knocking the guy. He's a very good receiver. Definitely number one receiver on this Bears team. But let's slow down with the elite title.
Is he Chicago elite?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
we can throw that
Chicago Hall of Fame. You kidding me?
If you're gonna receive, like, if the Bears don't go quarterback, which I hope they don't go quarterback in the first round, and they get like a guy like a Marvin Harrison Jr.
I was going to say, bring up that question that we got in the chat room by Foster here, or no, excuse me, Laz. Danny, will Harrison be an elite NFL receiver in your opinion?
Laz, potentially, he's got the traits. He's got the size, the wingspan, the ability to beat press coverage. He's got the ability to go up over defenders and make big plays. Now you get a guy like that who potentially could be an elite receiver. You pair him with a DJ Moore. Now we got something to talk about. All right. So and then if you're bringing Darnell Mooney, Tyler Scott, I'm done with Velus Jones. I don't want to see him on the roster anymore. But those four right there, if you have those, that's potentially a hell of a receiving core right there. So again, let's slot him in the correct way. Very good receiver, DJ Moore. I'm not taking anything away from him. Definitely the Bears' best receiver on this roster. But let's not throw the elite title out just so quickly.
Before we divert the subject here, this is an interesting question here by Foster. He says, "What makes a wide receiver elite? What's your criteria for elite? Not necessarily like who is elite, but what goes into being an elite wide receiver?"
Guys that impact the game, guys that defenses fear. Right, those 7 guys I listed you, they all impact the game. Everyone knows Justin Jefferson's getting the ball, but he still gets the ball. Right, they roll coverages his way. He still gets the football. Tyreek Hill, we know he's the guy who's going to beat you guys deep. They cannot stop Tyreek Hill, right? Devontae Adams, I know with the Raiders, he's been had some up and down there, but with Green Bay, you knew Aaron Rodgers was going to Devontae Adams. He still made the play. Guys that can still impact a football game when everyone knows that the ball is going to them and make big plays. Again, DJ Moore doesn't have to have 200 yards per game, but at least, get a touchdown. Remember he dropped that touchdown that versus the Raiders where Bajan threw a nice ball to him. That's a drop touchdown. And again, those happen. He's human. People make, dropped balls. The one in the end zone versus the Saints. Not sure even if he caught that one, that would have been a touchdown. The defender was kind of pushing him out of bounds. But again, big play, big time elite receivers make those type of catches and always have an impact on a football game week in and week out.
All right, I'm done with the DJ Moore talk. You successfully ticked everybody off. So.
Okay, guys. So before we get to Aldo's preview of the Panthers, I'd like you each to share your thoughts on the importance of this Thursday night game against the Panthers and how it impacts Chicago. So how much value do you place on getting a win over the Panthers on Thursday for this organization? John, let's start with you.
As much as I want to make it up in my head that it's important, because as I said in the last segment, I mean, yeah, they can beat the Carolina Panthers and they want to beat them because, they own the Panthers first round pick and they want to keep that high, but it's not like the Bears are sitting at number 20 in the draft right now. I think they're right up there too. So even if they lose, they basically just swap positions. So it's important because you want to win games and you're always going to cheer for your team, and you don't want Bryce Young to make your team look bad because that's what you traded the number 1 pick to Carolina, and you don't want that player to make your team look bad. So, I mean, I'm not going to I want it to mean something. I want any Bears game to mean something, and we haven't had a Bears game mean something for quite some time. So I guess if we have to generate this almost artificial excitement over it, then we will. But I mean, yeah, I want the team to win just like I want them to win every week, but I'm not putting a overly extra important emphasis on this game. Danny, am I missing something?
No, John. I mean, basically, guys, and this might be an unpopular take, and I might get some flack for it, but I want this coaching staff and hopefully this front office to be gone. And if they lose every single game, that's what I'm rooting for. And I know that's not what we want, right? We want the Bears to be successful, but the thought of Matt Eberflus coming back next year, it just made me throw up in my mouth, to be honest with you, just saying that right now. So it's just the fact that this staff, to me, they've lost me. I think they pretty much lost half this team. We're not, we'll see how the season ends. But for me, the more losses that rack up, and if you go into Soldier Field and you lose to this team with that, with that offense that they're bringing in this week, and they have some of the big players are hurt, are not going to be played this week most likely. I think that just starts the process rolling. And I never thought I'd say this, but I'm actually jealous of the Raiders because of what Mark Davis did. Cleaned out house, starting fresh after 2 years, and is going to bring in someone hopefully, for their sake, that can right that ship. But that's what I'm looking for the Bears, especially because it's a pivotal offseason for this franchise. If this offseason doesn't go right, you're talking about putting the franchise back 5 to 7 years.
Yeah, I agree with you, Danny. I never thought I'd be jealous of the Raiders. When I saw that news, I'm like, oh man, why can't we do that?
Well, the Bears caused it. They beat the Raiders, and then
I know that's rough. Man, we should have lost that game. No, I mean, I find it hard to not root for the Bears, and I do want whatever needs to happen for Matt Eberflus and everyone to be gone. But also, when you look ahead to the importance of getting this number 1 pick and how it could impact the franchise, where whether you take the quarterback or whether you stick with Fields and you trade that pick again, getting a win over the Panthers on Thursday night is just going to make their draft pick worse. And I mean, there's so many storylines in this game, and obviously you don't want Bryce Young to make you look stupid either. There's like a, like a pride thing here now, because the Bears we don't have a very good football team, and we don't need to be repeatedly kicked in the stomach here. So I mean, plus I'd like to wear, no, I wouldn't. It's not Monday. Sorry. I wouldn't get to wear my Victory Monday shirt. I'd be wearing it on a Friday again. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
They won their last one on Thursday night.
That is true. But yeah, I mean, looking at the importance, I think that it's a must win. I mean, is that rock bottom? Is this rock bottom losing the Panthers?
A must win. It's hard to, if you're a 2-7 team, I don't know you can classify anything as a must win. I mean, everything is a nice to win. Everything is a hope. Hopefully they win. But I mean, I will be cheering. Listen. I always say I'm not a gatekeeper of fans. If you're rooting for a tank because you're worried about draft positioning and moving forward, and that's fine. That's fine, because at the end of the day, we all want the Bears to be good. We may have different ways of going about it or thinking about it, but at the end of the day, we all want the Bears to be successful in some facet. So I have a hard time just saying, oh, please lose, please lose. That's just not in my blood to do it. But if you give me a few days and if they do lose and you give me a few days to think about it, like, maybe it probably was okay that they lost. But in the moment, I can't do it. In the moment, I can't be like, oh, come on, Bears, just lose. It's just hard for me to do that. But I understand why some people do that. So it's not, I'm not going to hold that against anybody.
For sure. And okay, now we're going to go ahead and look ahead to Thursday night's game. Yes, we have a Thursday night game. We're here on a Monday. The Bears are back in primetime this week when they host the Carolina Panthers on Thursday Night Football. And there are plenty of storylines surrounding these two teams and how they are linked. Here's Aldo Gandia's preview of the 1-7 Panthers.
The Panthers have now lost 7 of their 8 games this season. But Sunday's 27-13 loss on their home field left a terrible taste in the mouths of the players, coaches, and fans.
Down he goes, sacked again.
Obviously, it was a struggle. It was a struggle all day. Penalties and executing. So it was a struggle there.
We got all the horsepower we need, man, so congratulations to you guys.
Any excitement about the team's win the previous week against the Texans was extinguished by Bryce Young's 3-interception day, 2 of them for touchdowns.
It's Kenny Moore again. He's at the 30, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown! 2 of them today, a pick 6.
Meanwhile, C.J. Stroud, the quarterback taken immediately after Bryce Young in this year's draft, was at the same time having an extraordinary day, throwing for 470 yards and 5 touchdowns, including a game winner with seconds to go. But Panthers head coach Frank Reich found some good news.
The good news is that we play Thursday.
When you look and listen to Bryce Young and the Panthers, it seems doubtful that they can lick their wounds in time for Thursday's game at Soldier Field and beat a Bears team that is also mortally wounded.
It obviously it makes for you to have to turn that page even quicker. It's a short week. Obviously, we have to make sure that we're do all that we can to be at our best on Thursday. It just is how it shakes out. You got to turn the page quick. There's no time to do anything. Obviously, we play in a couple days, so.
Young looked battered and confused behind an offensive line that can't protect him, and wide receivers like second-round pick Jonathan Mingo inexplicably freelancing on pass patterns. The team's best wide receiver this season is Adam Thielen, who is on track to catch 120 passes. But overall, the wide receiver crew has received lots of blame for the team's offensive problems. At running back, the numbers don't look good. None of the backs averages over 4 yards a carry, and there's only 2 rushing touchdowns among the group. The team's top 3 tight ends have 29 receptions between them and 3 touchdown catches. The team's offensive line was expected to see a boost with the return of veteran guard Austin Corbett from injury, but on Sunday it was more of the same from a line that Pro Football Focus ranks as next to last.
Backs 3rd down and 9 for Minshew.
The defense has more encouraging news, except that 2 of the team's best players, linebacker Brian Burns and cornerback C.J. Henderson, suffered concussions and will not play on Thursday. The loss of Burns is especially concerning to the Panthers.
He's our best player. He's a beast. So we'll miss him, but it's next man up. And like you said, I mean, I'm not even thinking there's any chance of getting him, honestly. I mean, I don't, even if he were, there's a part of me like I can't imagine letting him out there, even if he wanted to go out there.
Cousins, little misdirection, and he'll get brought down from behind.
But the Panthers still have excellent defenders like the team's leading tackler, Frankie Lavu, defensive tackle Derek Brown, safety Xavier Woods, to name a few. The Panthers' defense held the Colts to less than 200 yards of total offense on Sunday, and the run defense, they allowed only 78 yards on 30 rushing attempts.
Their first win of the season.
Panthers' field goal kicker is someone we all know here in Chicago, Eddie Pinheiro. He's made all but 1 of his extra points and has made 14 of 16 field goal attempts, including a game winner in Week 8.
That's Johnny Hecker.
The Panthers also have one of the league's best punters, Johnny Hecker.
Watch this again. Well, you can't do that. You can't headbutt a guy.
Hecker doesn't always use his head, but the Panthers coaching staff better start using theirs in preparation for the Chicago Bears on Thursday. Because if the Panthers lose Thursday, they could be facing some pink slips in their very near future. For Buffone 55, I'm Aldo Gandia.
Leave it to Aldo to bring
on a short week, man. On a short week.
Oh, man, what a turnaround! Like, started that after the game yesterday. Like, I'm going to say it every week until the end of the season. We got the best in the business when it comes to putting that stuff together. It's professional. No one even touches it when it comes to that. I just love that he ends on the punter. I love it. We got to break down every aspect of that team, including the punter, and he headbutts somebody. It looked like a flop, but he headbutts somebody.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I've been with Aldo at the Senior Bowl, and he has scouted kickers and punters.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah, and I told him, I said, listen to the ball. And he sits there, he listens to the ball off the foot of the punter and kicker. So he knows his special teams. That's why he puts them in there.
You know what? We're gonna have that sounds like a spin-off podcast where there's just we just talk special teams the whole time. The best gunner in the league, best who holds the ball the best punter, best kicker, who has the most velocity. Why doesn't anyone kick barefoot anymore? Why no more?
Aldo have answers for you on those questions.
I know.
Hashtag special teams.
Yeah, no more straight on kicker. Everyone does soccer style. What happened? Why do we go away from it? Why aren't the linebackers the kickers anymore? What's going on? So I'm going way back into the vault there. But anyway, thank you again to Aldo for that. But hey, Danny, as Aldo pointed out, Panthers quarterback Bryce Young had a pretty horrendous day on Sunday. He threw 3 interceptions and 2 of them went for touchdowns. When you scouted him last season, what did you see? And are we just seeing Young go through some growing pains, or could we potentially see a bad trend and a bad draft pick for the Panthers?
Yeah, I saw a guy that played at Alabama that to me didn't have elite skill set, right? They don't have elite size. Was I was 5'10", under 200 pounds at the time at Alabama. Got over 206 at the combine, which is mainly a water weight, by the way. Doesn't have elite arm strength, right? The only thing, if you want to say it was elite, was his accuracy and his anticipation. That was about it. But in terms of, for me, I don't draft quarterbacks in the first round. This is just my rule. I don't draft quarterbacks under 6'1" and under 200 pounds in the first round. You want to take a flyer on these guys in the second, third round, you go ahead and do that. But you might catch it lightning in the bottle. But yeah, for him, it's right now he's struggling to see over the line of scrimmage. He's got an offensive line that they invested heavily in terms of draft picks and money, and he just can't stay protected. And obviously, the receivers on the outside aren't up to par. Adam Thielen's having a little bit of a nice breakout year. Mingo is a talented rookie receiver who's probably going to get better as his career goes on. Torrance Marshall, who came out of LSU, I thought was as a promising young prospect. He's really just busted out there. So not much to throw on the outside. With a guy with limited size, limited arm strength, and really he needs a superior offensive line. He needs talent around them, and he's a guy that you win because of, or you win with, not because of. So that's the thing is, like, I don't see, he was not my top rated quarterback. CJ Stroud was my top rated quarterback. And the fact that they picked, Bryce Young over CJ Stroud really is probably going to cost Frank Reich and Scott Fitterer their jobs this season, and that's a shame because Scott Fitterer is a great person. I've met him personally. I just let you know, that guy's a great dude. And Frank, from all I heard, Frank Reich is a great dude. And from what I've heard, that decision was more so with the owner, who wanted Bryce Young than the actual coach. But again, no one's going to actually throw the owner under the bus. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, it's just, it wasn't a guy I would take in the first round, much less with the first overall pick.
Time will tell. Not a great first half of his first season, but there's plenty of time to turn it around. Just going to the chat room real quick. Torian Whitfield said this game should have been moved to noon on Sunday, and then PZ stepped in and said, maybe noon on Thursday would have been better. And I'm more of that. I think this game should go on right after The Price is Right.
Actually, this game could have been put overseas. Like, starts at 8:30 in the morning here in local time. You don't have to watch
don't subject Europe to this. We're trying to.
They'll be drunk by halfway through the game, and
we're trying to grow the game, Danny. We can't be sending that crap product over there and saying, "Hey, this is what you're missing. Buy into this."
Wait. This week we have the Patriots and the Colts. So what are you talking about? Crap product?
Maybe that ain't great.
It sounds like the Bears are going to Spain next year too. So potentially,
Aldo, road trip.
We're gonna do a live show. Okay, live show. Live show from Spain. You heard it here first, because this is what we already have to talk about 2024 on this show. That's what we do now.
Always.
But anyway, Alyssa, Aldo noted that outside linebacker Brian Burns, one of the game's best, and cornerback CJ Henderson suffered concussions on Sunday. Coach Reich said it's going to be tough for them to play, or at least be ready for Thursday's game. Was there any update today on those players, and can you give us an early injury report for both teams, actually?
Yeah, well, let's start with the Bears, going through all the injury updates, because both teams have just a laundry list of injuries. And as far as the Bears go, let's start with the most important injury update, which is quarterback Justin Fields. He was limited during Monday's walkthrough, and he's now considered day-to-day with that right thumb injury. Eberflus said that they're going to know more on Wednesday, depending on whether Fields can go ahead and start in Thursday night's game against the Panthers. So that's something definitely worth monitoring. Otherwise, we're going to get Tyson Bagent round 4. And then with Jaquan Brisker, it's been like a crazy couple of weeks for him. He was in concussion protocol, then he cleared protocol a couple weeks ago, and then he was placed back in protocol last week. But the good news is Brisker has been cleared from protocol again, and he should be full go for Thursday night's game against the Panthers. Some other injuries: linebacker Tremaine Edmonds, who missed Sunday's game against the Saints with that knee injury. He's considered day-to-day. He was listed as a non-participant during Monday's walkthrough, so we could be getting more of Jack Sanborn here on Thursday night. And fullback Kari Blasingame, he's already been ruled out of Thursday night as he's in concussion protocol. And some big news too: the Bears designated Khalil Herbert, Equanimeous St. Brown, and Josh Blackwell to return from IR. As you remember, Herbert suffered that ankle injury in Week 5, and St. Brown and Blackwell have been dealing with hamstring injuries. So we'll see if Chicago opts to activate them on this short week, or whether they kind of wait it out a little bit. And then looking over at the Panthers, who their injury list today was crazy. A lot of players that didn't practice, and obviously the two biggest were Brian Burns and CJ Henderson. They're still in concussion protocol, and obviously their status for Thursday night is not looking good. I wouldn't expect them to be playing, which, is another break for the Bears there. And then some other injuries worth monitoring too for the Panthers. DJ Chark didn't practice Monday as he's dealing with an elbow injury, and safety Xavier Woods also didn't practice, and he has a thigh injury. So we'll see if those two guys are able to go, but just a whole slew of injuries between both of these teams, as well as 14 losses.
Wow, this game has it all. Go ahead, Danny.
The one thing is that the Brisker thing is real serious, guys, and I'm not sure who dropped the ball here, whether it's the NFL independent, neurologist, or how that works, or whether it's the Bears training, because he had a concussion, was in protocol, was taken out of protocol, was put back in the game, apparently suffered some more setbacks and some more concussions. That's dangerous, and that's putting a player's career at risk. So I'm not sure who dropped the ball. I don't want to point fingers, but whoever it is, there should be some accountability there, because you're putting this young kid's career on the line by putting him back in the game when he's still dealing with concussion symptoms. So that's one that kind of flew under the radar there. But that, to me, it's a very serious infraction by either the NFL or at Bears. I'm not sure who's the fault there, so I don't want to blame, but that's serious stuff there.
I mean, it's for everyone, but Brisker, a young player, and you want to make sure that he has every opportunity to have a long career, and you don't want to already put those setbacks in front of him if somebody drops the ball on that. So, Danny, you think with when Equanimeous St. Brown is healthy and ready to come back, that might be the end of the Velus Jones experiment?
God only hope so. I'm tired of seeing Velus Jones. I mean, he can't catch a ball as a receiver. He can't return punts. He can't return kickoffs, apparently. He can't play special teams, apparently. I don't know what the hell he's doing on the roster, other than the fact that he's Ryan Pohl's third-round pick. The one thing, but Alyssa's update there, key thing is that's those three guys being designated to return. Those are the 8 players. Those are the final players the Bears can bring back from IR. So from now on, if any player goes on IR, they're done for the year. Just FYI.
That's good information, because now I think with the way that the IR rule changed, it's some people aren't sure. They're like, okay, can he come back? Can he not come back? So anyone that the Bears put on IR from here on out is
done for the year. I think that's why Justin Fields wasn't put on IR, because basically if he goes on IR and they want to bring him back, then one of those 3 guys wasn't going to come back.
Mm-hmm. Going back to the what you were saying about Velus Jones, I said this on Bear Football after the game, but it was interesting listening to Matt Eberflus' press conference. They were talking about the holding calls on the offensive line, and he said he had to go back and look at the tape, and he wasn't sure, and they're going to have to look at it later. And then when they asked him about Velus Jones' face mask penalty, he's like, oh, yeah, that was a face mask, and you can't do that. As a professional, you can't be doing that. So I think even Matt Eberflus might be done with Velus Jones.
Third round pick.
So, yeah.
Third round pick.
You weren't very happy about that pick when it was made anyway, were you?
No, I was not.
More receipts for Danny against
he was a guy that I had in day 3 of the draft, because he was a guy that give you some value on special teams, especially at USC. Had been to a couple of schools, Tennessee, USC. Never been really a position, like, that never was a receiver, never played some running back. He was all over the place. And just to take a third round pick on a guy, especially he was supposed to be one of your core pieces to help build around Justin. Just a horrible pick.
I need to bring up Eric's comment on YouTube. So anyone put on IR won't be able to come back for the playoffs? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's no good.
Oh man, that made me chuckle. I had to bring that up.
Playoffs? What are playoffs?
Yeah, we
got a Jim Mora impersonation over there. Playoffs.
We got to try to win a game. And Alyssa, correct me if I'm wrong. Still in the Matt Eberflus era, never back-to-back wins, right?
Never back-to-back wins.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
It's forbidden.
Lost 17 of the last 19 games.
Oh boy.
And yet Ryan Poles wants to bring him back.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Still in the midpoint of the season. We're okay. But let's put a bow on this thing before we head out of here. Alyssa, it's a short week, and I'm sure your content schedule is adjusted. So what can people be expecting out of BearsWire.com as we get ready for this big, monumental, paramount Thursday night matchup with the Panthers?
Oh, man, lots of preview content. I know that's what readers want. They want to look forward to this matchup. We have that, all the news coming out of Hallis Hall this week, plenty of injury updates. I mean, this is going to be something to monitor. I know for Justin Fields, whether he's going to be playing as well. Got to get my hot seat watch out, of course, which, I mean, just continues to get hotter. So, I mean, we're going to have plenty of content before the game, during, and after.
And Danny, the Bears signed a defensive end in Montez Sweat, but that's not going to stop you from studying the defensive ends coming out of the draft. Can you clue us in on who you're looking at?
Well, I mean, we talked about last week a little bit in terms of guys in the first round. It's not really a heavy first round, a defensive end, outside linebacker draft right now. And the guys for me in the first round right now, like I talked last week, was Jared Verse from FSU. Latu from UCLA has been on fire the last couple of games against Colorado and Arizona, respectively. 6 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks. Is up to 16 tackles for loss and 11 sacks. That's a kid that I think is cementing his way up those draft boards, and I think he's going to end up going in the first round. Dallas Turner from Alabama, 6'3", 240. One of those tweeners, guy that can play off the edge, probably as an outside linebacker, but again, the guy that brings a live body, 10.5 tackles for loss, 7.5 sacks. So that's a guy that's the second round, top of second round, or late first round. Could project himself obviously with the draft process into the bottom half of that first round. But I was asked to give you some names in terms of guys on like late day 2, early day 3, and these are some guys that intrigue me right now. Again, these are guys, unfortunately, right now, there aren't the prototypical 6'5", 6'6", 275-pound, first step quickness, bend around the corner type of guys. Those guys go in the top 10, top 15 in the draft. And I think that's one of the reasons why polls felt compelled to go get a Montez Sweat, a guy that can give you about 6 to 10 sacks in that range and give you a good run defender at the edge there. So I think that kind of why he went their way. But if you talk about guys in the third round, again, depending on if the staff is here, the staff is not here. If you're bringing in a whole new defensive staff, they're running a 3-4 or 4-3. These are just 3 guys that right now intrigue me in terms of just pure pass rush ability. The first guy is Adisa Isaac from from Penn State. Again, tweener, outside linebacker, defensive end. Some scouts are not sure where he lines up best. About 6'3", 248. Redshirt senior, I should say. 21 tackles so far, 10.5 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks. Heavy hands. This is the guy when he plants his hands into the chest of an offensive lineman or a tight end. I call it knockback power. You see that the head's rocking back. He's got that core strength and those heavy hands to be able to get in there. And then also he's got that nonstop motor. So he wins with some physicality at the line of scrimmage, and he wins with that motor. Second guy I have is Muhammad Kamara from Colorado State. He's best known around here for that Colorado game where he was kicked out for targeting Shadur Sanders. But a guy 6'3", 240, another heavy impact hitter. Motor runs hot all the time. He's got 13 tackles for loss, 10.5 sacks so far through 9 games. And a guy that I'm starting to dig more into his tape, and I'm really, really intrigued. But again, size is going to be an issue with this kid. 6'1", 255, and this is Antoine Powell-Ryland from Virginia Tech. This is a guy that was a 4-star high school prospect coming out of high school, went to Florida for the first couple of years, transferred to the ACC in Virginia Tech this past year, and is setting the ACC on fire. He currently leads the ACC in tackles for loss with 13, sacks with 9, and forced fumbles with 3. First career, he's got 6 forced fumbles. This is a guy, you talk about that athletic get-off, first step quickness. You see some pass rush ability in terms of spin move, the ability to use his arms to free from offensive linemen, and again, a nonstop intensity. Those 6 tackles for loss tells you when he hits a ball carrier, whether it's a quarterback or a running back, he's got the ability to jar the bar loose. So Antoine Powell-Ryland is a guy that I'm keeping an eye on. But again, these 3 guys are mostly late day 2, early day 3 guys. Again, depending on what scheme you're running, even if you keep Eberflus, and I said it again, and I got myself sick here by just saying that, but you can use these guys as situational pass rushers, right? Bring them in, and like a guy like James Houston that with Detroit, they run a 4-3, but James Houston is an undersized pass rusher they bring in opposite of their number one pick. Hutchinson, thank you. And he's very effective. He's hurt now, but he was very effective. So these guys can come in here opposite of whether it's Sweat or whoever you have, DeMarcus Walker, and use their abilities to just get to the quarterback and generate pressure. So these are the guys that I'm looking at possibly as day 3 guys.
Danny, I'm going to let you read that question from Laz and get your opinion on it.
He's on my list, Laz. He's on my list. As a matter of fact, I was going through the list here. I'm waiting for Alyssa's list here of guys on the hot seat. I'm still, I'm asking here. So, so my head coaching list, guys, and thank you, Laz, for asking this question because I have my list ready. My number 1 guy, depending on what happens, is Jim Harbaugh. I know he's under investigation, blah, blah, all that stuff.
Alyssa doesn't want him to leave Big Blue.
He's going to sign an extension.
I would love to have him here. Number 2, moving up on the list, is Ben Johnson, the Lions offensive coordinator. And the reason I like Ben Johnson is because he takes what he's given and he makes the best of it, right? He doesn't have a set system and says, all right, this is my quick cutter system, and you guys play to my system. He takes what the guys do best. Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, the running backs, David Montgomery, so on and so forth, and the tight ends, and he incorporates everybody in the offense, and he builds a system around his offensive playmaker skill sets. Third guy might be popular here, but Bill O'Brien. I think Bill O'Brien, as a head coach only, did a pretty damn good job with Deshaun Watson in Houston. He built an offense around Deshaun Watson's strengths, and I think they were taking off. Deshaun Watson had a great first couple of years under Bill O'Brien. But again, as a head coach only, if you're going, Bobby Slowick is a guy that's on my list as well. He comes from that Kyle Shanahan system, a guy that's doing a great job right now in Houston with CJ Stroud. So I think he's a guy you have to look at, a guy who's failed in the league before as an offensive a play caller. I believe might have been a quarterback coach, but he's come back now with Houston and has done a tremendous job with that young roster. And we saw what CJ Stroud did last week versus I forgot who they were playing, but he just tore him up, 470 yards, 5 touchdowns. And a guy, if you're doing, and I know we go offensive guys and we go defensive guys, and since we have a defensive guy, we're probably going to go offensive guy. But a guy that really, really intrigues me, and I just would like to know who his offensive coordinator is going to be and what the plan is if that offensive coordinator ends up leaving him, is the Bengals defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo. He's a guy that's very, very well respected around the league. Everyone I talk about his defense, the way he schemes and designs on a week-to-week basis for whoever he's playing that week. Very highly respected, but he's a defensive guy. And if we have a young quarterback here, whether it's Justin, Invasion battling for it, or if you go get another guy in the draft, God forbid, it's you got to see, what's his plan in terms of developing this quarterback. So, it doesn't necessarily mean if you bring a defensive guy, you can't draft a quarterback. Look at Houston, right? DeMeco Ryans, got a good offense coordinator, and now, he's got CJ Stroud lighting it up. So Lou Anarumo from the Bengals is a guy, defensive minded head coach potential that really intrigues me.
Let's go to Mike's question real quick. What do you think about Brian Kelly? Could they pull him out of the college ranks? And would you want him?
Oh, my God. Brian Kelly? No,
wow, I didn't expect such a strong opinion on that. Okay. I was just reading it on. What about, listen, the Kansas City Chiefs are a really high-octane offense. They have a really hot-shot offensive coordinator right now who might be looking for a head coaching job. The name's escaping me.
John.
Take him off the screen.
Oh, no.
Did I get deleted off my own show? No.
Yeah, I am done with I have chief fatigue, whether it's Nagy, whether it's Bieniemy, whether it's Ryan Poles. I am done with chief fatigue. It works for them. God bless them. Just keep it over there. I don't want to hear in Chicago anymore.
With that being said, I guess we're going to put a bow on this one. Hey, we all appreciate each and every one of you tuning in, whether it's your first time or 55th time, whether it's the video edition or the audio podcast afterward. We love having you guys in the chat room. You make this show so easy to do with your comments and your questions, so we do appreciate that. But don't forget to tune in to Bear Football right after the show on Thursday night, right here on the Barroom Network. Danny and I won't be there this week, but we'll have you covered with some other analysts. As soon as the clock hits 000, they're going to have some raw emotions and reactions to that game between the Bears and the Panthers. But that will do it for this edition of Buffone 55. For Alyssa Barbieri and Danny Shimon, I'm John Buffone. We'll see you next time.